Lane Kiffin wouldn't troll people on social media, would he?
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I am Brian Smith, in for Stephen Willis. Thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen each and every day. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Appreciate you stopping in. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. We're going to talk about some big box SEC football questions, some teams that I don't necessarily buy. We're going to be talking a little bit about the depth chart at Ole Miss on the defensive side of the ball. We're also going to be talking about a stolen car. Former Ole Miss Rebel DJ Brown had a little issue. We're also going to be talking about some transfer portal, a couple players leaving the Rebels. But to start, as I noted in the opening statement, Lane Kiffin basically just being Lane Kiffin. Here's the deal. I was just scrolling on YouTube today and randomly found a podcast where Lane Kiffin was the guest. And I had no idea what it was about, if it was going to be more ball talk, more about his career, or what it might be. But they actually not only went into the backdrop like him at USC and Tennessee and different places, he even open-endedly discussed what it's like to be a representative of Ole Miss and how he handles his X account. Why? I don't know, but he was just completely blunt, unsolicited. Here it is. And he said, and this is hilarious to me, that a lot of coaches will send him stuff because he'll tweet it and they won't. And he also says that I represent Ole Miss. It's not my job to concern myself with the fans of other schools. I love that. I don't like it. I love it because it's true. Lane Kiffin gets under the skin of a lot of people. He's said things that I thought were stupid at some points too, but he also has a lot of fun. Take it with a grain of salt, first and foremost. But secondarily, note that he is a very calculated man. There's a reason for a lot of the things that Lane Kiffin says, not only about Ole Miss football or juice or whatever it may be, but also about what's going on in the world at large. He's not going to hold back, and he likes to get at people. He likes to troll them. He didn't deny it in the podcast whatsoever. He talked about it open-endedly. Sometimes he basically admitted he goes a little far. Sometimes he doesn't. But the bottom line is the guy was truthful about it. I thought that was fantastic because honestly, most coaches go out of their way to be politically correct in public just to secure their own job and future jobs. And that's another point that Kiffin made. He said that multiple times. And I'm like, golf clap. Give me a golf clap. Because coaches are so full of it. I met numerous coaches, whether they're head guys, coordinators, or whatever. What you see on screen is baloney. How they act off the air, it's not even in the same stratosphere. It's completely fraudulent. The one thing about Kiffin is what you see is what you get. There is no denying that. You can hate Ole Miss, you can hate Kiffin, whatever it is, if you're an LSU fan or Mississippi State fan, whatever, that's fine. But he's not somebody trying to lie about who he is, who he represents, or where he wants to go. He's happy at Ole Miss and he likes doing what he's doing. It's pretty cool. And it's, for me, it's very, very much refreshing because I don't see enough of it. Dealing with college coaches with the transfer portal and recruiting all the time, I get a lot of people that are fake and they are users. So I appreciated Kiffin kind of standing up for everybody in one broad stroke. So again, golf clap for Kiffin. He deserves a hand. Now, on to more normal stuff. The transfer portal took another couple players here recently. Nobody that I thought is really going to impact Ole Miss all that much, but you never know. Kids sometimes blossom as seniors. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years. Sometimes it's not till they're a fifth-year guy, whatever. But Ole Miss has lost Cam Easton, offensive lineman. that never really made it, never really played. And then Dylan Hipp, a guy that was a freshman last year, pretty good player out of the greater Phoenix, Arizona area. So is it a major deal? Probably not. Offensively, I think Lane knows what he has. And skill position wise, in particular, I'm not worried. It's a little disappointing that East didn't make a lot of news in terms of playing at Ole Miss. And I don't know if he was banged up or whatever, but I had to look him up. I wasn't sure who he was. But those are two players that I've seen that have hit the transfer portal. And by the way, a couple of notes while we're on the transfer portal. The last day that a player can get in is on Friday, and that concludes at midnight. However, you do not, I repeat, you do not have to make a selection for your next school. That is way, way, way more wide open. And that's where it gets funky. Like with recruiting, I cover that year round. You know when the signing dates are. It's not real hard. With the transfer portal, it is way, way more difficult. So expect a few more guys to get in the portal for Ole Miss because that's just the norm. And also expect, if I were you, following the SEC, pay attention to a few schools. And I'm going to give you some here. LSU, it's been really quiet over there at LSU. Really, really, really quiet. Texas, they might be preseason number one. But who else leaves? You got all these, what they call exit interviews at the end of spring. Who else leaves the 40 acres? Because they could be the most hunted team in the college football this year. By the way, they open at Ohio State. So that's interesting. Georgia, remember, I've said it a number of times here on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I pick Ole Miss to win at Georgia this year. They've lost a few more players in the last 6 months than I would have thought, but it's not been a massive exodus. Do they lose any more linemen? Like, for instance, O-line, do we really feel good about where Georgia's at? If they have any more defections, that could be a major problem for Kirby and his crew. Plus, on defense, they lost some pretty darn good players like Starks out of the secondary. Who else do they lose? They just lost a kid that hadn't played in the secondary, but do they lose anybody else with valuable experience? Those kinds of moves in the SEC can have major ripple effects, and we'll see how it goes. Now, before we move on to the next segment, I saw something that I thought was kind of funny in a way, although sad. A.J. Brown, famous player. I got to give the guy credit. He could have been worse about this, but somewhere near Philadelphia, he had his car stolen. It ended up in Camden, New Jersey. But I'm reading this article about it, and I don't know why he did it this way, but here was his public proposal to the person that stole the car. Dear Philly, to whoever stole my car last night, I'll make a deal with you. Bring back my car, and I won't press charges, or when I find you today, it's going to be what it's going to be. That was him on social media. Take it or leave it, my guy. Well, wasn't that long. The car was recovered, and not surprisingly, it was over in Camden, New Jersey. Not a good area. We already got the car. See, I told you just to turn the car back in. Now you got to deal with the consequences. We're talking to the police. The joke is on you, Brown said after the car was found. This is the kind of stuff that is just so random. With social media, and maybe he's just taking after Kiffin here, you never know when a player is going to speak out. Now, I'd be ticked off too if somebody stole my car. And I have a feeling that AJ's car is pretty dope. But to that point, I think it's hilarious that he called out a bunch of idiots that stole his vehicle, and they'll probably get some kind of fingerprints or something off of it because, stupid people do stupid things. So I hope they go to jail, and I hope AJ is happy with the whole thing, considering once it's all done. When we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit more about the depth chart, not just with Ole Miss, but how it works, what they might still need. That is next here on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one spot, so you stop just managing money and you begin building wealth. All in one convenience. Instead of just juggling all these different apps to figure out what's going on with your money, Monarch Money can help you do that under one app to plan for your long-term future. It's also easy to collaborate with your partner because you can set both of your accounts right underneath Monarch Money. That way, again, you can set your goals and do everything you need to in one place, making it more convenient. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Do you feel comfortable with where Ole Miss is right now on the defensive side of the ball? Not just starters, but depth. Before I took over the Locked On Ole Miss podcast for Steven, I asked him a few times, hey man, where would you want a player or two positionally? Where do you think? He mentioned safety, possibly corner, but safety would be a spot. And he said, there's some other things, maybe an offensive lineman. Well, the 24/7 page for Ole Miss did a defensive depth chart. I took a look at it. It was pretty interesting. And I have some questions that I want to go over based on who they had and just my knowledge. I'm not anywhere near as knowledgeable as Stephen Willis about the Rebels, but I know enough to know that there are certain guys, if they step up, Lane Kiffin and the rest of that program are going to have a much easier time. Defensively is the key for Ole Miss. It always has been. When they get the D linemen and they get the O linemen, they're usually good. And of course, you're going to have other little pieces here and there you got to add. This year, it's the secondary. If they get those this spring, this is a playoff team and maybe one that can make some noise. So here's what I have for you on that front. Number one, when I was kind of going through this and I was just trying to figure out, hey, what do you think about the defensive line? That was my biggest concern. I wanted to see who they had. And it was even deeper than what I thought, well, at least originally. Does that mean it's perfect? No, but my first question, Xavier Harris is projected as a starter, and I don't think that's going to surprise anybody. But it's not just that he was going to start. Can he be a guy that is a difference maker, not only to help his team win for what he does individually, but is he a big enough difference maker where he can start rushing the passer more? I mean, he's a massive guy. And I'm not trying to pick on him or anything. It's not like he's going to suddenly be the twitchiest guy off the ball. But if he can just become a little bit better of a pass rusher, Xavier Harris will change Ole Miss into a team that is feared again. Now, I'm not saying they're going to have the same defensive front they did last year. They went out in the portal and just killed it, and they made a commitment to get the best of the best. It'll be a step back from that, but that's an important part. I mean, Xavier, 6'6", 320 or something like that. I forget what exactly he is, but he's humongous. If he can take that next step, especially as a pass rusher, Ole Miss gets better. The other question I have in the D-line, Eccles. I think he will be the other starter. Maybe it's Jamarius Brown, but whatever. Eccles is a guy I liked out of high school a lot more than many other people. I know Steven did too. Another guy that's over 300 pounds. If he's able to take a step just in general, he's a younger player, Ole Miss is in a better spot because you're just constantly rotating players. When your sophomores kind of take that step, and then maybe a one or two juniors, it's different. Because then you're freshmen, you're not throwing them to the wolves. Ole Miss has had to do that too many times throughout their history. This is a year they should be good. A lot of homegrown talent at D-line. Maybe Eccles is better as a run stuffer this early juncture in his career. Maybe not, but I think that'll be the case. That's fine. If those two guys really step up, and of course you get Brown and a few other guys kind of doing their thing too, Ole Miss might be one of the top 5 defensive lines in the league. Linebacker. Now, this is a kid I don't know a ton about, but I looked up his stats. What's the deal with TJ Daugherty? Last year, he started 11 games that he actually had a chance to play, so he's obviously beat up a little bit at some point. 640 snaps per Pro Football Focus. Okay, we all know who the other starter is going to be, Sunterian Perkins at linebacker, the freak of all freaks, but that was easy. Can Daugherty not just shine, but be a difference maker because Perkins is going to get all the shade? Teams are going to find a way to angle block him, chip him, do everything they can to keep him away from the football, rightfully so. Does Daugherty take that next step, though? I mean, he played 640 snaps last year. They obviously relied on him, but can he be even more impactful? I don't know what his abilities are. Just off the top of my head, I just don't remember him specifically last year. But if he's able to get off some of those blocks, and he's going to get single block all the time, Ole Miss is going to have one of the better linebacker units because Perkins, I mean, for the love of mankind, if you don't like Perkins, there's something wrong with you. In the secondary, this is where I'm a little bit more concerned. And I understand now from looking at it why Steven had brought up what he did with me. Safety, I think Sage Ryan's the key. My question for him is, can he be a leader? Very talented player. He did pretty well at Ole Miss for the most part last year, but they had some other issues. Jalen Braxton, Tavoy Fagan, are they ready? One of them, maybe even both of them, end up starting in their transfers. The Rebels need to really hit there from the portal, and there could be other guys. I don't know enough about them to really get into depth on it. I do know Tavoy from his high school days. He's a great kid. But like Jalen, I really don't know. Does either one of them have the ability against the quote-unquote upper echelon, not good, upper echelon receivers to take them out of plays in the SEC? If the Rebels are going to make a run to the playoff, the answer to that has to be yes. They're not making it without that happening. At least one of them has to be, and that doesn't even count Ricky Fletcher and Chris Graves Jr. That's a spot I'm a little concerned about because there's a lot of green there. We don't know, but there is also talent. So we'll see what Ole Miss does, if they're going to play a little more zone, if they're going to try to trick teams, or they're just going to play cover one and make it easy for the guys schematically a little bit more. I don't know. But Ole Miss has some youth, has some inexperience. It will be interesting to see how that works out, but they got some talent. The only other question that I really have in the secondary, who's the guy, again, that's the leader? I'm hoping it's Sage Ryan. He kind of has the mental build up to be that guy. I remember that from recruiting. But if you have leadership in the back end, preferably at safety because they help make all the calls, your defense tends to run a heck of a lot better. I'm not sure if Ole Miss is ready to take that next step as a defense and be like a national top 20 kind of unit. But in the back end now, there's no hiding because everybody spread you out, kind of like Kiffin does. And if you don't have that leadership when things go wrong to quickly get back on track, again, your chances of going to the college football playoff, they're out the window. You got to have it, and every team's going to have ups and downs. It's okay, but you got to be ready to make it happen on any given play because your teammates may need you to do that, quite frankly. Now, before I go on, one last comment. Defensively, is there a player out there, I'm just asking open-endedly, and you can comment on the YouTube page about this, that you think, don't say Terry and Perkins, by the way, that's too easy, that you think is going to break out this year? Just comment on the YouTube page, the Locked On Ole Miss YouTube page. Who is it and why? Or at least you're hopeful. Maybe you don't think so, but you would like to see it. Either way, that's cool. When we come back, kind of a broader look at the SEC. I've been scouring, reading some message boards, reading some articles, talking to some people around the SEC. Going to give my take as I did last time, talking about some of the schools, just more comments and thoughts, because there's, at the end of the portal, there's a lot of different things going on. This is a really fascinating time for SEC football. That is next here on Locked On Ole Miss. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Ole Miss Rebels and their competition in terms of the portal and what's going on. As a reminder, if you're in the spring window, no SEC player is allowed to transfer to another SEC school, per the league commissioner and the front office of the SEC. So you're not going to see any of that, and that's why one of the following point-blank statements is going to be made. There aren't enough defensive tackles in the portal, even in the winter window, but that's when SEC kids can transfer to each school. I think some more guys would get in the portal, but they want to stay in the SEC. Just my opinion. There's a very low number in the portal, even with some of the kids from the SEC that do get in, but I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of movement there, and a lot of people are looking for it. Ole Miss could probably use one like anybody else, but they're not near the situation some other schools are. Florida could probably use another one. Georgia's always looking for one. Texas has taken several. Oklahoma could probably even use one, and they've had some success there. But I think that overall, the league is still way ahead of just about anybody else from a balance perspective. Top end, maybe the Big Ten's better. You could make that argument with a couple of schools, but I would still take the SEC at D tackle, and that's where games are won more often than not. Now, just going to go through some schools overall. Been reading a lot and listening to a lot of Ole Miss podcasts to try to keep up with what's going on here to help you guys with my information. But the other school I've been following is LSU. And there's a growing concern that their secondary is still not where it needs to be. 2 points. Number one, it's frickin' LSU. At what point is it just like, come on, it's a disaster. Like, there's still concern, and they did lose Sage Ryan to Ole Miss, but it's LSU. There's talent there. There's a few guys that are good. They got DJ Pickett coming in, by the way. He is a freak out of the Tampa area, but how is it still a concern at this point? I mean, the last 2 years have been bad. That's one of the schools that has been labeled DBU forever. How hard is it at LSU? And they've got NIL. I don't get that. I don't get that at all. If it ends up being the secondary again for LSU that keeps them out of the playoff, who gets the blame this time? You've changed coordinators. You've changed DB coach. You've done all kinds of stuff. Whose fault is it? This is all Brian Kelly stuff. And maybe this will get resolved and this will be moot. I don't know. But there's still some concern about the secondary. Really? I don't understand that at LSU because that should never be the case, but that's just me. Moving on to the other school in the state of Mississippi that resides in the Southeastern Conference, just want to make a basic comment. I have not heard one thing about Mississippi State that makes me think they're going to be good this year. Now, I have no concern one way or the other about Mississippi State and Ole Miss as far as just being a fan. I'm fascinated with Kiffin and following Ole Miss, but I didn't root for either one of the schools growing up. But it's just weird. I live in Alabama, and I haven't heard one thing about Mississippi State. Not one. Good, bad, or indifferent. Are they that irrelevant? I know they were terrible last year, changing the roster over, coaches, all that. I get it. But are they still that bad? I don't understand how that's possible because they've dumped some money into the program. Surely it's just the fact that they're considered a bottom dweller. That's all I can figure because it shouldn't be that hard to at least improve because there is nowhere to go from what little I saw for Mississippi State last year. They were horrible. And I'm sure they'll get stomped by Ole Miss again, but that is really random. I thought they would make at least a jump to like 5 wins, but right now I'm not so sure because there ain't much information out there on the Bulldogs. The team that I think could surprise some teams is Arkansas, and it's because of the quarterback. Taylor Green's experienced. He knows the Arkansas system. He's athletic as all get out. I saw him play last year at Auburn. Holy cow. And I don't think Arkansas is a team that anybody takes that serious. I don't. Let me give you an example. Arkansas hosts Notre Dame this upcoming season. The Irish are better, but if they're not careful, if they screw around, especially in the first quarter, Ole Miss fans know that's not an easy place to play. You cannot jack around with that game. Now, I'm not saying they're going to beat Notre Dame, but if they get out of the first quarter ahead or tied, all bets are off. Taylor Green's a guy that can get you there in a crucial moment. Freak athlete, and he can sling it pretty good. I think they'll be one of the surprise teams in the SEC this year. Going to reiterate something that I've said, and I'll probably say it again on this podcast before Stephen comes back. I do not trust Billy Napier and his staff, period. I don't care what's going on with Florida in terms of predictions and all that. And I think they'll be better this year in some capacity. And I like DJ Lagway, good kid, great talent. I don't think Billy Napier is a high-level coach. There's been too many points where special teams disasters, timeouts, too many men on the field, not enough, whatever, too much Bush League stuff. I'm sure he's improved as a coach, and they've gotten better as a staff in some capacity. But my patience with them is already past. You can look at it differently. And again, I understand DJ's behind center. They got talent at running back. They got talent at receiver. It's the trenches for me. And then their secondary, if possible, is worse than LSU's. It's not because they didn't recruit well. I know a lot of those kids coming out of high school. I saw them play. That is a coaching problem until otherwise proven. And we still don't know what they're going to do against another brutal schedule. We'll see how that goes. Obviously, Ole Miss has a little payback in mind, but Florida's a team that could beat you. But if Ole Miss is healthy, I think they're going to put one on the Gators. That's just my pick. Now, Tennessee, I just want to make a quick comment. Joey Aguilar comes over from UCLA, goes to Tennessee. Good for them. Good for Iamaleava to get to UCLA, and his brother, ironically, is leaving Arkansas, going to UCLA, where he was originally committed, by the way. All that's over. I'm hoping that everybody's happy now, and I think Aguilar's a pretty good player. He can really run. We'll see what Josh Heupel can do with him, and I actually think, based on his experience, he's a kid that's been in college 4 years, he will be pretty good. Pretty good. At Tennessee this year, it might even be better than what Nico was. Now, I'm not saying he has the same ceiling or NFL future. I'm not. But Nico's still a young kid, just kind of fitting into what he knew in that system. And you could tell the wheels were spinning a little faster than he wanted them to sometimes last year. And that's why they ran the ball so much. But this kid Aguilar is going to be pretty good. Tennessee will be interesting to watch all season long because if that quarterback works out, they still got a lot of talent. Receiver is my only other concern there. Just going to make a really basic comment about Texas A&M. I don't trust the quarterback situation, and their secondary couldn't even play basic zone coverage last year. I do not trust Texas A&M. Oklahoma, I think the staff's getting fired. I'd said it, and I think a lot of other people have said it. I thought they'll probably be a little bit better this year, and they will be, but their schedule might be worse than Florida's. Oklahoma fans are not patient. I'm being kind. They won 10 games a couple years ago, but they only won 6 this past season. That's not going to work for Oklahoma fans. Fair or unfair, Venables and his staff are probably going to be in trouble. Texas, they're my pick to win the national title. They just picked up Murad Watson, a defensive tackle from Syracuse, big-time player. He was a freshman All-American. He's over 300 pounds. Texas is basically doing what Ohio State did. They're going overboard. They're going to be in the red financially. They don't care. They got Arch for 1, maybe 2 years. They're all in. If your guy's getting in the portal, good luck. He's probably going to Texas. They are spending like crazy. Finally, South Carolina. Heard a lot about them being an upstart this next year, and they might be. I don't know their roster well enough to say for sure. What I do know is I'm not hearing enough about them in the transfer portal, at least yet, for me to believe they're going to take that next step. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But a last point, I think I mentioned this the other day too. It's one thing to be talented and you're the hunter. It is quite another when teams have seen you're good and now they've circled you on the schedule for the following season. Welcome to the upper echelon of the Southeastern Conference, South Carolina Gamecocks. You will find out really quick if you belong there or if you're going to get spiked like a football when teams are like, okay, come on down, especially those road games. We all know how brutal the SEC is on the road. If South Carolina is not ready, they will get smacked around. This is more mental than physical because they got some players. There is no doubt they got some players. But it's different when everybody wants a piece of you. We'll see how South Carolina reacts. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to learn everything that I can give you while Steven is out. I hope he's doing well. He'll be back in a few weeks if everything turns out the way that it should. But I enjoy being here. Thank you very much for listening to me. If you got any suggestions or anything, just comment on the YouTube page. I check it every now and again. Hopefully everything I'm doing is something of interest to you, but I'd love to do better, so let me know. Thank you once again. Give us a 5-star review. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you again soon here on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.